Hi, I'm Eric Rehberg. I'm the Vice President of Engineering for Armada Power.
What are some important discussions you've noticed in the industry so far this year?
Well, I think, a lot of the same topics that have been in the forefront in previous years are still there, right? ESG, carbon reduction, energy equity, those are all still very important. But I've seen a couple additional lenses that have been kind of added on. One being the, era of low-cost money is kind of coming to an end, right? We're seeing interest rates rise, and that's having an impact in different markets in terms of investment and such. And so I think there's been a lot of interesting discussion around what does ESG and carbon reduction and so forth mean in this era of kind of increased interest rates. And then the second one has been there's been a really significant rise of things like AI technology, and so big question of how does that technology play into the economy, and what percentage of the economy is going to start to become dominated by things like AI technology.
And what are you excited about achieving this year in your current role?
Well, our company, our Armada Power, we specialize in producing some of the lowest cost energy storage that's available for the power grid, and so for us, really just continuing to deploy that into the market. Working with utilities and regulators across the country to structure programs that make sense for their jurisdictions. I think with energy, it's a highly fragmented regulatory environment. So, you have to kind of tailor make, all these different types of programs to sort of fit what the different markets require.
The theme for this year's ETS is focused on highlighting and elevating the humanity behind tech and businesses. What are you most proud of at Armada Power that elevates human connection?
Well, it's really that problem solving element. I think we've looked at the company growth through kind of a technological lens in previous years, and now it's really how do we get into the home? So convincing regular consumers that don't necessarily know much about energy. They may have an awareness and a desire to sort of reduce carbon dioxide and things like that, but they don't really have a know-how to do so. And then really kind of working with all the various stakeholders and utility programs. So how do we make this easy? How do we teach people about the technology? We've launched our a consumer app that makes it easy for humans to sort of interact with the technology, and I think that type of usability goes a really long way towards advancing a product or a company's mission.
How are you in your own way keeping Earth weird?
I personally, I love just kind of reading up on things and learning all sorts of different interests. I don't know. That's kind of a tough question. I guess I'm just a weird person in general, so I feel like I'm always kind of keeping Earth weird.
As we reflect on ETS 10th anniversary, how has energy in your life changed in the past 10 years?
I would say a lot. I've been coming to utility conferences really for the past 2 decades. I think in the past we tended to, as an industry, to really focus in on discussions around how do we make this technology work? Are we using the right interface between computer systems, and how do we deploy smart meters, right? And I think an interesting transformation I've seen in the last 10 years, which is a good one, is to really start looking and focusing in on like the actual real problems, right? So the real problem isn't a computer protocol that we're going to talk between systems. The real problem is how do we reduce carbon emissions in a cost-effective and equitable way, right? Those are two like really very, very challenging topics, and I think it's refreshing to see that that's actually being discussed in a significant way now, sort of 10 years later, as opposed to kind of the discussion that happened probably 10 years ago.
We're at our 10th ETS, and this show has evolved significantly over that time. Have you undergone a similar evolution?
I think so. For me, I have an engineering background. I think I've spent most of my career and life training in things like technical intelligence, technical topics, right? So how you do analytics and math. And I think really one of the interesting revelations for me has sort of been that human intuition and things like decision making, which is tied to emotional intelligence, is actually far more important. And I suspect that as we go forward here, if we look at the rise of AI, we're going to start to see computer-generated reasoning become the sort of dominant resource in the market, right? We're going to have almost infinite levels of technical analysis. And in a world like that, the resource that's going to become scarce is actually human intuition and decision making. And so I think, going through a journey like that where, Now, I'm not so much focused. I mean, we're still focused on very much the technical side of, get technology's got to work. But now I really focus on, all right, well, how do we tell the story that makes people interested to actually adopt the technology, and how do you get stakeholders on board, and how do you get people to care about those things in their program design and the way that they run their company, or even the way they approach energy themselves.